It feels like everything's changing so fast these days, and education is definitely one of those areas. The way we learn, teach, it just seems worlds apart from even a few years ago.
Absolutely. And, well, for anyone trying to keep up, understanding these shifts is pretty crucial. So that's what we're doing in this deep dive, really looking at the big changes and discussions in education, say, over the last 5, maybe 10 years.
Right. We basically distilled a conversation between an experienced teacher, Sarah, and a school administrator, Daniel, pulled out the key takeaways.
Yeah, think of it as a shortcut to getting the lay of the land in education right now and, maybe where things are headed.
And what's interesting is how their viewpoints, coming from different places, the classroom versus the admin office, kind of illuminate the same core challenges.
Exactly. He's looking system-wide. She's seeing the day-to-day realities. It gives a much richer picture, I think.
Okay, so let's jump in. The first thing that just seems massive is technology. It's night and day compared to what many of us had in school.
Oh, totally. It's almost funny. Looking back, Daniel mentioned remembering when one overhead projector for a whole floor was like cutting-edge stuff.
Huh, right.
Right.
And now, smart boards everywhere, tablets, kids using AI tools. Sarah even mentioned students using ChatGPT for first drafts of essays. That opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it?
It really does. And then you have things like virtual reality, potentially bringing historical events to life. Super exciting possibilities.
But like they both talked about, it also makes you stop and think, what does all this tech do to how kids learn? To critical thinking? Are we just, teaching them to find answers quickly or to actually think deeply?
That's the fundamental question, isn't it? Daniel sees the potential, for personalized learning, making things more engaging. But Sarah raised that really vital point. Does too much tech maybe get in the way of developing real creativity or independent thought?
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
And Sarah had that great line, you can use Google to get answers, but you can't Google wisdom.
Yeah.
That really hits home.
hmm It perfectly captures it. Technology is a tool, a powerful one, sure, but it can't replace the human side, the discussion, the reflection, that teacher connection.
So it's about using it smartly, not just for its own sake.
Precisely. Thoughtful integration. Now, it's not just the gadgets changing things, right?
Yeah.
They also got into how the actual classroom, the teaching methods, are evolving too.
Absolutely. Daniel was describing effective classrooms today as, well, much more dynamic places. Kids are active, working together, not just sitting passively.
The teacher isn't just the sage on the stage anymore.
Exactly. More like a guide, a facilitator, helping students explore and discover. It's way more interactive.
And Sarah gave some real examples, didn't she? Like project-based stuff, getting students leading discussions, using real-world problems. It's a definite move away from just listening to lectures.
Which, let's face it, probably wasn't the best way to learn for a lot of us anyway. They made a strong point about needing to prep kids for their future.
Yeah.
Not just repeat our own past school
This
experiences.
is the skills they need are different.
Yeah, completely.
And that ties right into the next big shift.
Yeah,
What we're actually focusing on teaching. It's broader than just the classic subjects now.
definitely. Things like critical thinking, being able to look at information, analyze it, decide what you think. That feels absolutely essential today. Information overload is real.
Totally. And problem solving too. Tackling complex stuff, thinking outside the box.
Daniel also brought up digital literacy, which isn't just knowing how to use a computer, right?
No, it's more about understanding how technology works,
Hmm.
evaluating online stuff critically, being a good digital citizen. And Sarah pointed to emotional intelligence gaining ground too, empathy, self-awareness, communication, all seen as crucial now.
It really suggests a shift towards educating the whole person, equipping them with a wider range of skills for life, not just for exams.
Yeah, a much more holistic view.
Okay, switching gears a bit, but something that felt really urgent in their conversation was mental health in education.
Hugely important. And yeah, they both stressed how widespread the challenges are. Teacher burnout, stress, it's high. And for students, lots of anxiety, mental health struggles. Maybe made worse by the pandemic disruptions, many think.
It's tough stuff. Teachers are juggling so much, often dealing with issues way beyond academics, and students are facing a pretty complex world.
So naturally, the conversation turned to, okay, what do we do about it? Daniel talked about needing schools to build a real culture of care, making sure resources like counselors are available.
And Sarah emphasized training for teachers, right? So they can spot when a student is struggling and know how to offer some initial support.
Yeah, but crucially, she also highlighted that teachers need support themselves. They can't pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely. They're expected to wear so many hats.
Right. So Daniel acknowledged that professional development shouldn't just be about teaching techniques. It needs to cover stress management, setting boundaries, maybe even tools to save time.
Because, as Sarah basically said, happy, supported teachers lead to happier, more effective classrooms. It all connects.
It really does. That positive environment starts with the educators feeling okay.
So we've covered technology, classroom changes, new skills, mental health. Where did Sarah and Daniel see things going, say, next 10 years?
Well, looking ahead, Daniel seemed pretty convinced we'll see more hybrid learning models. Not just remote learning as a fallback, but blending in-person and virtual stuff in more creative ways.
Makes sense. Technology keeps improving, and it offers flexibility.
And then there's AI. Both of them were kind of intrigued by the potential for really personalized learning, like AI creating unique learning plans based on each student's pace and style.
Wow, that could be transformative. Truly individual paths. What about assessment? Still all about standardized tests?
Hopefully less so. There was definitely a hope expressed for moving away from that heavy reliance, putting more value on creativity, on curiosity, finding better ways to see what kids can actually do.
Like more project work, portfolios, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Sarah especially hoped to see students having more say in their own learning, pursuing passions.
Well, it sounds like a much richer way to learn. Less about jumping through hoops.
Yeah, the vision is really students as more active participants, even designers, of their own education, assessed in ways that capture the full picture, more student-centered.
A promising direction for sure. Okay, so just to recap quickly for everyone listening, we dove into how technology is reshaping everything, how teaching itself is becoming more interactive and guide-focused, the shift towards skills like critical thinking and emotional intelligence, the crucial need to address mental well-being for students and teachers, and finally, a glimpse into a future with potentially more hybrid, personalized learning.
Exactly. Lots of moving parts, all weaving together to shape what education looks like next.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up. With all these changes, especially with technology advancing so rapidly, what parts of learning do you think are truly fundamental? What needs to stay constant no matter what? Definitely something to ponder.